Welcome to episode 302 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films and
everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
royally F them up.
In our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles Alderson, and you are...
I'm Dom Lenoir.
Today on the show, we have...
Live from the Blanky Kingdom, the Blanky Fort.
Live from my blanket fort in a very small, echoey hotel room in northern Spain. We are chatting with the actors Daniel Brühl and Albrecht Schuch, and director Edward Berger, because they have all made the rather brilliant film All Quiet on the Western Front.
You could say it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. All Quiet on the Western Front is a fantastic, searing, harrowing drama.
Epic,
yeah. Based on the book All Quiet on the Western Front, which is 100 years old, all told around the First World War, about how these soldiers were cannon fodder and how our lead character needs a father figure and a friend. On the episode with Edward, what do we talk about, Dom?
Edward wanted to talk about getting close to the characters, feeling what they feel, and immersive battle scenes.
We also talk about his 3 months preparation in a hotel room, probably not under a blankie, with cinematographer James Friend, talking about how they would shoot it, their shot lists, the VFX, the smoke, the storyboard, and what films inspired them for the look of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Sparking up a great friendship along the way.
Nice.
He also talks about casting locations and working with crew.
How it was a very hard shoot, how they got through it, and why planning is so important.
Finally, the details of world building to bring the trenches alive.
With the actors Daniel Brühl and Albrecht Schuch, we talked about what they look for in directors and how different directors work.
They talk about acting and building roles, and they also discuss capturing the truth of an important story.
Now, if you don't know Daniel Brühl, you might have been living under a rock.
You probably should, really.
Yes, you probably should. He is the star of movies such as Rush, Bye Lenin, Inglourious Basterds, and Captain America. He's also directed a feature film called Next Door, and he's also in My Zoe, which is directed by Julie Delpy, who has been on this very podcast. Albrecht Schuch has been the star of Berlin Alexanderplatz, System Crasher, Measuring the World, The Royal Game, and is Stan Kat Kaczynski in All Quiet on the Western Front. The director, Edward Berger, now you might know him from his work on the TV series Patrick Melrose, The Terror, Eden, or Your Honor, that really fantastic courtroom drama with Bryan Cranston. Feature films he's directed are Wonder Bread, Jack,
or Wunderbread in German,
Wonderbread, All My Loving, and All Quiet on the Western Front.
Well, there we go. It's pretty good roles between them, isn't it?
Very, very good. We're delighted to have Daniel, Albert, and Edward on this week's episode.
So, yes, apologies for our pronunciation, gentlemen.
Gentlemen? Is there no ladies listening?
Well, I mean, I was talking to the actors who were mispronouncing their names, but
right.
Yeah, certainly to the ladies and gentlemen audience as well.
Right, thank you for clearing that up. How are you, Dom? You all right?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah?
Not bad.
Yeah.
Busy.
Busy? Yeah? Yeah, what are you doing?
Busy. Lots of stuff.
Right. Anything our listeners would like to know? Well, Dom, I've just heard some news.
Yeah.
And I looked this up myself. Obviously, that When the Screaming Starts is currently 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is your produced feature film directed by Conor Burrow. 100%.
100%. Surely it can't be.
Yes, it is real. This is incredible news.
It's real.
Is this the first time you've heard of this?
It might well be. So maybe you should go and watch that film because it's supposedly quite funny, according to critics and fans alike.
It is available to watch on Prime now in an all good and evil stores at the moment. Prime yourself for this. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I love this film, actually. I thought it was hilarious. And it's brilliantly well made on very limited budget. Do go support.
But not a constrictive limited budget. Let's make that clear for the audience.
I mean, they could just go and listen to the episode with Conor Burrow, yourself, and me about how they made that film.
They could.
What other news?
Right. So there is a film coming out.
This is exciting.
It's a comedy heist. It's set in Grimsby.
I might know what this is.
So good for those northern folks. And it's having its premiere in Grimsby on the 18th, and it's having a London premiere on the 23rd.
What film is this, Dom, that you could be talking about?
So it's called 3-Day Millionaire. You may have heard of it.
Oh, you may have. Dom, so kind.
There's a really good cinema tour manager involved in the programming. I'm not sure about the rest of the team. I don't have much information on that.
Basically, what Dom's trying to say is he is our tour manager of 3-Day Millionaire. So we are doing a theatrical run of the film, which comes out officially in cinemas on the 25th of November. But there are some previews and there are some Q&A tours coming up around the UK and other countries. How exciting is that?
It's almost too exciting.
It really is. It really is. But thank you for bringing that up. It wasn't in our notes at all that we should bring that up. So I really...
The Filmmakers Plug cast. Plug our films.
I really like, was it Mark's comment on socials when we say mocking each other on Twitter the other day just by having fun. And we're like, and just people really enjoying listening to
Guild Alderson and the Dild, wasn't it? On the Dad, I can't remember.
Promoting our own films on the podcast. Hey, listen, no one else is going to do it for us, right?
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, we slave away to sort of promote other people's films, and
we constantly do, yes. So, coming up for you, though, we have some really, really exciting episodes. Not only is today ridiculously exciting with Daniel Brühl and Albrecht and Ed, we have coming up for you Sophie Lowe. She is the star of Medieval. We've also got her and screenwriter and director Peter Jackal.
Also coming up is our Causeway podcast episode, an incredible film starring Jennifer Lawrence, and we spoke to the director, Lila Neugebauer, and producer, Justine Chiorocchi. We also have the incredible Niamh Algar, actress of The Wonder, Emma Donoghue, the writer, and Sebastian Lelio, the director.
This week's episode is sponsored by Q Scripts. They are a script analysis service providing detailed, constructive and professional reports on your shorts, features and TV scripts. They work for emerging talent and established writers looking to take their scripts and ideas to the next level. At the moment, there's a 3-month membership which is free for a limited time, but the annual membership only costs £60 anyway. So you might as well get involved with Q Scripts. Links to all that are in the show notes. A reminder of our Patreon at the moment. We have so much bonus material on there for you, all about how to make films and the mini episodes that Hugh Siddle has been curating for us. He's talked to Radi Nikoloff about creating short films. He's talked to Mikhail Chowdhury on creating film in lockdown and using deaf actors. He talked to Ben Robbins about getting thrown in at the deep end of filmmaking. He also talks to Nilesh Patel on the fine line between film and architecture. He also chats to the filmmakers of When the Clapping Stops and talking about socially conscious filmmaking. And very recently, in fact, yesterday, a mini episode has just come out with Santi and the cultural impact of filmmaking. Do go join our Patreon. A lot of these are free, but if you fancy giving us a couple of quid to help support this podcast so that we can keep sitting under hot duvets or blankies in the middle of the Spanish sun just for you, please do support that and everything else you can. Right, should we get to it? This is Edward Berger, the director of All Quiet on the Western Front. Enjoy.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Hello.
Very good, thank you, Edward. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure to meet you. It's an incredible film. It's visceral. It's
harrowing, very very harrowing.
It's true to life, isn't it, Dom?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just such a big story, and it really does cover the horrors of war. 'Cause, I mean, a lot of war movies you watch, and you see a bit of the horrors of war, and then there's a bit of hope and sort of redemption, and a few people sort of get out all right, and there's a few tragedies, but overall you think, okay, well, war's not too bad, but I can sort of see a bit of sense in this, and I think what's so powerful about what you've done with this is you really have created this sort of the senselessness of it, and you really do feel for the characters who are sort of pawns in this in egos, really, at the end of the day.
Well, what a great morning for you to tell me that. Thank you. No, that's wonderful. So yeah, we don't deal in redemption, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
In this movie.
No, it's harrowing, and it's stunningly shot. Interestingly, I know James' friend. He shot my first ever short film. Your cinematographer.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Right.
Perfect.
He did a couple with me, and actually that was what made me want to direct. Bringing him on board. He'd shot something that I was in back when I was an actor, and then I said, "Hey, will you shoot this with me?" And yeah, wonderful guy. How was your relationship? Why did you want to work together? Obviously, you're shooting something in a German language as well, and you're choosing. He's an amazing DP. There's no question about it. But was there a specific reason why you wanted to work with someone like James' friend on this, who's an English-speaking person?
Well, we had done a couple of things together. I first met him about 5-6 years ago on a show called Patrick Melrose that we did together, and we had a great experience. And we became very good friends, very close collaborators, and we speak all the time about what we want to do next and so forth. And this time it just felt so what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do, was put the camera somehow right in the middle of this battlefield with Paul Bäumer, our main character, and make the audience sort of grab them by the lapels and drag them through the mud with Paul, with our main character. And at the same time, stay maybe just 5 inches further back, sort of just observing it. We took that from the book, that feeling, because the book is basically a reportage. It's like a reporter reporting on things, fairly unemotional, just observing. And he lets the audience do the emotionality for themselves, rather than telling them, okay, this is going to be emotional now. And just in terms of my talks with James, when sort of gearing up to make the movie, we just had that same language and that same observation from the book, and just felt like, all right, we're going to be the best collaborators on this, as on anything. I would do any film with James, and it just felt that, and also, it was a technically challenging film, and James is also very interested in exploring how to bring technically complicated movements or technically complicated camera coordinations onto the screen, like how to translate those things best. So it's just very interesting. He has a great team with Danny, the operator, and Grip, and the gaffers. And so together, it's sort of a great camera team that brings that emotionality to the screen.
I mean, I really liked what you did on the detail shots in terms of bringing people into the world, because it's not just sort of, okay, here's the battle, here's the sort of the whizzing of the bullets. I mean, even from the opening sort of crane shot, that there's something that you sort of bring that really puts you into the world, the surroundings, the sort of the horror on the side and the background of everything. But I'm also very interested. I mean, when I watched this, I was actually thinking this is really like Roger Deakins level cinematography, like with the silhouettes and the shadows.
He's gonna love hearing that.
Yeah.
Oh, he will.
What was there in terms of the sort of the candlelight and the way that you lit and you sort of created mood through the visuals? Can you talk a bit about that collaboration?
We also spend a long time looking for images that inspire us, be it in art, a lot in art, or painting, other movies, Roger Deakins's movies.
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not?
You look for good inspiration. No, we start gathering images. Fog shots. We looked at every fog shot. Like there's great fog shots, for example, in the movie Macbeth, right? Shot by Anna Markerpaw, and directed by Justin Kurzel. So we looked at those and said, "Oh, look at the level of fog," just to determine the level of fog we wanted. The different movies. We took photographs early in the morning at 5 a.m. getting up in Prague and sort of exploring the landscape there and say, okay, this is a good fog level. This is a good frost level. So we do the shot list, and we do storyboards for the very complex scenes. And we really do them. We probably did them for 3 months, locked away in a room in Berlin. It was COVID, and James came over, and so we stayed in this no room service little room.
Oh no, didn't eat.
And we didn't eat.
Yeah, just worked on this.
Just had some tea. And some chocolate,
3 month fast,
chocolate cookies. That's it. And did the storyboards and we put them up against the wall, and we stood back. And we have a book of probably 350 pages or so of storyboards. Because also sometimes the shots were very long, so pan down and come up and run with him and dive behind the horse, and explosions go off, get up again, take the helmet, hit someone over the head, jump into a trench, all in one shot. So those were like 30 frames of drawings, just for one shot. Every new position was drawn. And so we put it up against the wall and then look through that sequence and say, it doesn't quite work. Let's take out this shot. Let's change that and, draw it again. And then eventually we have this book with shot lists and storyboards so that the entire crew knows what we're going to try to achieve on a certain day. And as we go through the script and do this shot list, we also talk about atmosphere in terms of lighting or of the scene. And then we just look for other examples of movies where we like the lighting and assign it to I show him a painting where I think, this lighting is very good. And then we just sort of put that into the script or put that up against the script and eventually also up on the wall and put certain images to it and then slowly start actually seeing the film without ever having shot it. And by that time, you probably wonder, why are we even shooting this?
Yeah, it's a cartoon.
It's done. Put it out. And then we actually have to do it.
Yeah.
And then also the storyboard was very helpful because it kind of keeps you sane, because otherwise you come in the morning and you think, oh God, we didn't have a big schedule, right? It was 53 days. Every day was really the hardest shoot that I think the entire crew had ever done.
Wow. Okay.
And every day was really, really hard to achieve. And sometimes when you looked at the whole day, it almost crushed me, the weight of it, the amount of it. I thought, I can't ever get this done. And sometimes on the way to work with James in the mornings in the car, to be honest, I almost broke down and he propped me up. And then maybe another day he was down and I tried to prop him up. And so we really sort of needed each other's help to get through it. And also that storyboard kind of helps you keep sane because all right, let's just focus on the next shot. The crew knows where we're going to go after this. They can start prepping. The AD knows what we're going to do. Let's not focus on that. Let's just do this one shot. And then we did it, just one shot. That's all we have to do. And then you do the shot, cross it off. And then you go on to the next. And you think like, okay, it's just one shot. It's not 50.
Right.
Yeah. So it just sort of keeps it sane and manageable in a way. So in that sense. But that was a long-winded answer to your question about lighting with candles.
It was a very good long-winded
I really
answer.
enjoyed it. So that was good. We're talking about that then and that process of propping each other up and the importance of collaboration, which is honestly, it's so vital. People forget how difficult it is when you're in the zone, you're making films, you're absolutely tired to bits and you're shooting in mud, you're shooting in weather that is probably really difficult. And even though it looked absolutely stunning and it's totally worth it now, at the time there you mentioned, it was really hard. What was it that was hard and what was the things that helped you get through it? I know you said, look, we propped each other up, but it'd be really interesting for our listeners to sort of go, oh, this helped. This is how we got through it. And I know it's shot by shot, moment by moment, but was there anything else mentally or physically that you did that would help?
I think it's mainly really James's, actually that advice came from James, let's just do this one shot, and that helped me sort of frame it differently and not having to think every day the whole movie and what was in front of us, and just go from shot to shot to shot. That's very helpful. But also, it's for the entire crew. I think everyone had their different techniques. I came to set I don't know what, at 5 a.m., 4:30 sometimes maybe, which means that the costume designer gets there at midnight. Sort of, and so to get the extras ready, to supervise those, and so I think I almost had, everyone had such a hard time. I almost had the easy time. When I think of the other people, but as you say, the crew is. I think in terms of technique of how to achieve it is. I really believe in casting. Meaning casting the actors, first of all, because that is, you spend a long time, if you're looking for the right actors, you spend a long time finding the right ones, then actually it makes life so much easier on set, because a lot of the directing is done also, a lot of it is now bringing everyone together, and I really believe in what the actors then, you made that choice and you spend a long time in casting and you made hopefully the right choice, and then it just flows. It's like picking a location. Casting, I mean everything, actors, and casting the location, and the location. When the location is right, in a way, it guides your camera. Right, there's only one way to shoot it then in that location. And the third casting is probably the crew that you meet. Those HODs are, if you want to. The biggest crutch on getting through it is probably that team. It sounds like everyone who makes films knows this is true. For people who don't make it, it may sound like they're saying, the crew, and but it's really true. I had the best crew ever, the costumes, the production design, the makeup, the stunt crew, the AD, they all bring their knowledge, and their knowledge is bigger than mine because they have made more films. Yes. I make one film a year. They make 4, 3.
It's so true. Yeah. DOPs usually do 4 films a year, costume. They go on to more. So it's true. I love that you said that. Use their knowledge, and they've done this.
I need them in a way to help me make this film and educate me. And for example, also when we sat in the storyboards, or in HOD calls, James very often said, well, we've all shot battle scenes before, and
yeah, we were there.
Yeah, I haven't even had an explosion on set. I never blew anything up.
Right,
and so, but I didn't. My previous films didn't need that, so I didn't concentrate on it. And this one needed a lot of it. And then you just have this crash course with people that help you learn about it.
Yeah,
I have a great SFX guy who tells me, well, can't do that, but this we can, and maybe you can solve it this way. And the stunt people are immensely important in terms of figuring out the grip is immense. Very often we design shots, James and I, that were very long, going from in the trench, through the trench, around the corner, climbing up, going back down, going back up again, and running across the battlefield for 150 feet. While explosions are going off 150 yards. Sorry. So for long shots. And while we were drawing that in this room, eventually on the 28th frame or so, I looked up and said, by the way, how are we going to do this shot? We're just thinking.
Yeah, it looks great on paper.
And he was like, I have no idea. I don't know. And so for that, again, James knows a lot technically, and visually and creatively. He's very, very, such an inspiring partner, but he doesn't know everything, and he hasn't done every shot. So we just asked Danny, the operator, and the grip, to go figure it out and come back with some solutions. And maybe not everything will work, but we'll find a solution for it. And then we actually always did. And that's up to the grip, who knows more in his department than both of us know together, especially than I know. And so as I said, they've done so many more films, and every time you cast that crew and you talk to them and say, oh, that person is really inspiring. And that person really wants to make my film. It's really, they're burning for it. The people I ended up working with were all burning to make this film. And they gave it their everything. The costume designer did get up at midnight, basically, to be on set at 12:30, and look at the extras, that they're properly,
right.
That they look right. And so anyway, that's, again, a long-winded answer to a simple question of how do you get through it? It's, I think, work with great people.
So in terms of adapting the novel, because obviously there was another version of this film that existed in the past, but you've definitely taken it off in a different direction, and you've definitely captured what the story is about. But how did you approach the script in a way, thinking, okay, well, these are some of the guidelines. What do I want to sort of do that's original? How do I want to sort of put my mark on what I choose to adapt?
Well, I mean, anyone who does any book sort of has their subjective POV, and they would bring that to it. So, mine sort of shifts in further to the left than someone else's, or further to the right, and looks in other places. I latch on to like one scene, one sequence in the film is basically taken from one line in the book. And it's now a 10-minute sequence in a way.
Which sequence is that?
It's where they look for the boys, that mission where they wake up and they look for boys and eventually they find a group of 60 boys that have died, And it's just really, it's really just one line. So I had a wonderful draft from two writers who live in America, but two British writers. And I had that. And I felt, all right, I want to bring more of my... the reason to make the film was to make it a German film, to really make it from my country's POV, or from my POV, and what I grew up with, and my heritage. And that is obviously very, very different than a British or American upbringing, which, looking back at the wars, a Brit would go, well, my great-grandfather was in a war, or, defended his country, or England was attacked and they had to fight back, and they did an honorable thing. And you look back on it with a certain sense of pride, and that's why probably a different movie can come out of England because the filmmaker, you have that in you. You look at it and say, like, well, my great-grandfather was in this war and defended, and that's why I live, and that's why this country is the way it is now. And in Germany, there is no such thing. There's only a shame and guilt and a weight of responsibility about it. And so that imbues your decision on how to make that film. And that's why it then, in the end, hopefully feels different than a British film. And that's why it's, I guess additive. That's why I wanted it to be additive to that conversation. You have a British war film, you have a German war film, you have an American one, you have an Indonesian one, and everyone has a different POV on what they bring to this conversation.
Well, I thought the way that you humanized the sort of the mentor characters was a bit that I really enjoyed. And the sort of the missions to the farm with the goose thefts and I did really feel like you were on side of it was a very difficult position as a viewer, because you're watching it and you sort of know how the war is going, but you don't feel remotely like the German soldiers are doing anything wrong. It's sort of it's the sort of the generals that are really the sort of the bad guys. But actually, when you look at the general people, it's just everyday kids going to college, family people, and it's very difficult to sort of get your head around it, but it is very humanizing. How do you sort of balance that?
Yeah, it goes back to your script question. So the book is very much that. It's very observant, but it's also very human, and just talks about these kids basically. And it's about. I mean, the book for me is about how youth and innocence, embodied by these enthusiastic kids who are manipulated into a war. They have no clue. They have no news. They have no television, where they see, oh God, my friends are are blown to bits in the trenches. Mm-hmm. They think their great grandfathers were in wars and came back heroes, and they want to be like them. And there were actually a few wars in the 19th century that were very, short and successful in the end. They were victorious, And they thought, oh, we're going to be like this. And they really told them it's going to take 3 weeks to Paris, and then you're in Paris and then it's yours. And even though you have no right to it, but they felt they were manipulated and through propaganda and populism into this belief. And so to me, that's just the book is sort of follows this youth and innocence. And very quickly as they arrive, they find out that everything they've learned so far, all the morals, all the values that they have are worth nothing. And that it's all about, your own survival in the end. And they become a survival machine. Mm-hmm. And survival machine in a war also means a killing machine. You have, it's either you or the other guy, and then, anybody would get, well, it's better be the other guy, you become sort of a dehumanized. So it comes from a very human, childish, innocent, youthful perspective to becoming a very dehumanized machine. And that theme of a machine, of the war machine, because it's also the first industrialized war. It's the first war where artillery shelled from the back and tanks came. We have the sequence where tanks come through the fog and they feel like spaceships, basically. And the kids go like, what? I've never seen anything like this. And they just roll over them and they don't stop, and this machine, this killing machine doesn't stop. And it won't stop until you're just a dehumanized pod running across the battlefield and hitting other people left and right for your own survival. And that's what the story is about. And so we focused by taking the script. So we had this British script, and we had a lot of research, and we had a lot of and we had the book, of course. Like the book is basically the North Star, even though we added things to the book. And then the amalgamation of that gives our perspective about into this war and into the story.
It's quite incredible. It really is. It's an incredible achievement what you've done here. It is beautiful, stunning, and harrowing, like we said at the beginning.
Wow.
In terms of these battle scenes that you've done, like you said, you've never done them before. Maybe break it down a tiny bit for us, for some of our listeners who are, they're going to do some battles soon, or they want to do battles as big and as epic as yours. What did you learn from this? If you're going to do battles again, you go, I learned not to do this, or if you're going to do an explosion, it's going to take all day, or, the setup time is much longer. What did you learn from doing it that you would take forward?
Great question. I learned so much. I learned everything from the other people. So just to explain the process maybe, and then I find out myself what I really learned, because I don't know if it's one single takeaway. But so we drew these storyboards and then distributed them to the HODs. And then our AD, a wonderful guy called Benedict Herrmann, he organized HOD meetings via Zoom. And we had, probably 15, 20 people on these Zooms, from costume to, because, how many costumes are you going to need, when people blow up? When, what is the length of that costume change? The blood pump, where do we hide it? Is it better to do that body hit with a VFX, or do we want to do it for real? With a explosion on the body? Do we, that explosion in the background, can that be a VFX, or is it because it interacts with the light? Should it be for real? So we had these, I think collaboration is the thing that you take away. So these meetings with 20 people, for example, also the tanks go across the trench. And of course you can't have our trenches were pretty fortified, but they weren't that fortified that
to put a tank across.
It's like, and on top of it, there's actors underneath it. So how do we do that? And it's broken up into shots, of course, but we had to build and I don't know this. We planned this, and suddenly the not even the production designer, but the art director goes, wait a second, we can't send this tank across the trench. And I go like, oh, why not?
Why not?
Because it's going to collapse.
It's battle ready. Come on.
We find out, all right, we have to build a second section of trench that is maybe, twice as wide as the tank. that is just fortified, where it can go across, where we can put a camera underneath, and so that section was built just for that one shot, actually. The stunt guy will go, well, the thing you drew here, it's going to be difficult, like I can't do that. I can suggest this, and then we say, oh, that's actually better, let's redraw this. Or we say, no, it's got to be exactly like this. Come back and think about it. Isn't there another solution? And then there's maybe a solution in collaboration with VFX, that he does, okay, this is safe if VFX can help me out here. And so these sessions, I think, these planning sessions, endless planning sessions that are, take hours and weeks, yes. Hundreds of hours, until everyone really knows. And then we had this grid for each shot, and for each department was listed what that department has to contribute to each shot. 3 uniforms, 5 body, how do you call those body hits on the
squibs.
Squibs. There you go. 5 squibs. We need to calculate how many explosions in the film total we have to make some sort of budget. So all these things were sort of decided in these endless Zoom meetings.
And it sounds like the real attention to detail that you've sort of applied to the script and the story and the very sort of world that you're building probably was really beneficial to the acting and everyone sort of being on the same page as well, because like the atmosphere really like leaps out of the screen, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I mean the attention to detail again comes from, I think, talking it through and taking the time with James, sitting in this room. And of course, we come up with more ideas than we've written into the script. So we have the script, and then when you sit, it's almost like writing it again. When you break it down, and then actually imagining it, and then knowing, and it's better to do it. I mean, for me, it's much better to do it with, together with someone than sitting on my own somewhere and thinking of it, because it's twice as many ideas. And James inspires me, and hopefully I inspire him, and then suddenly we have more ideas. And with those ideas, I also go to the actors. I go, listen, we thought of this, and maybe you can, I don't have a specific example now, but, I'm sure like with the goose or with the eggs or something, we thought of something during the shot listing, and it wasn't even in the script. Or for example, I mean, I came up with the idea of, there's a little boy who commits a murder in the end, doesn't commit he shoots someone. And that came actually during the storyboarding. It wasn't really, and he died earlier, that character. Yeah? He died earlier, and it was simpler, and it felt just a little bit, while we were storyboarding it or shot listing it, just felt like, it's too expectant. You kind of want him to get away, because you think, he's probably going to die here, and then he got away, and then suddenly he didn't. So it's just these little twists. Then it's almost like I treat it as a second writing process, and really examining the script, if it holds up or if it can be better.
The choice of where you ended, the story, because to me the sequence with the farm and the sort of the tragedy there, and then the final sort of horrendous general sort of against everything, deciding that his men are going to go into this completely pointless battle. What was the sort of the decision on where to end the movie and how to end it? Because it's almost quite beautiful. Like they think they've got away with it, and that's where probably a more sort of glossy ending type story would have finished. Is after that bit before the farm, before that end bit where everyone sort of, a few people survive and everyone goes off happily. So just that kind of decision.
Well, it's really the book again. The book is basically doesn't let anyone off the hook. So you can't, and it's so famous, this book, so you can't, you're going to have to drive it home to this, into this, futile, everything was for naught, kind of ending. To us, we just knew we needed a last battle to describe the utter senselessness of it. And then also to end sort of in a really lonely and devastating place. That seemed the only consequential ending from after reading the novel, and after certain things. We added certain things into the script, like the armistice negotiations that weren't in the novel. And so that's just, that sort of automatically puts the movie at the very end of the war. And therefore, you sort of have to, I don't know what I can give away. Probably a lot of the people who listen to this have watched the movie.
That's true, but we don't want to give too much away.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we want people to watch this if they haven't. Yeah, obviously, you've done some amazing TV, Deutschland 83, The Terror, Patrick Melrose, as you mentioned, Eden, and Your Honor, which I found absolutely fantastic. You were exec producer on that. But the difference, I suppose, between that and All Quiet on the Western Front, again, you've got to wrap this up really quickly and apologize for that. But in terms of something for our directors out there and our producers and people that you do, what is it on your journey that you've learned over that time that you wish you'd known earlier, that you could have got somewhere quicker? I don't know if there's any of that, because that's what a lot of our indie filmmakers want to do. They're like, why can't I get there? Is there anything you've learned over your time, that in the past you wish you'd known that could have helped you?
I think I started really young, and I didn't have, and a lot of times people told me, well, you got to live, you got to live and have some knowledge and then you can make movies. And I never understood that. And I think if the biggest thing you need is something to tell. What do you want to tell, and what's inside you, and what's your opinion on something? What's your, I don't want to call it vision. It is vision in a way, but it is sort of the soul inside you that needs to get out. And you go, I need to do this. And when you have that, then it goes into the film. And you don't have it. Some people have it miraculously at 23. I didn't. Yeah. So I just needed 15 years to sort of get there and learn and do some television and learn here. And eventually it's sort of life and, your family and friends and some disappointments that you've had, and that sort of lead to something that needs to get out. And that, I think that's the most important thing.
Amazing.
But there's no quick way to get there, unfortunately.
What a great answer.
Just an overriding passion.
Yes, exactly. All Quiet on the Western Front is out on Netflix on the 28th of October. It is stunning. Please go support and watch this film. Edward Berger, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I love your podcast. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
Absolute pleasure. All the best. Good luck with it.
Good luck
Cheers,
with the
buddy.
movie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys and gals, Giles here, jumping in to tell you about Q Scripts. Well, they're a script analysis service who provide detailed, constructive and professional reports on shorts, features and TV scripts. They work with both emerging talent aiming for a break in the industry, as well as established writers looking to take their scripts and ideas to the next level. They have experienced readers with a track record at honing scripts into the best and most appealing version for production companies and other partners. And because you listen to the Filmmakers Podcast, you get 3 months membership for free for a limited time. So get there now. qscripts.com. Link is in the show notes. Easy. qscripts.com. Check them out.
And that was our fantastic chat with Edward Berger. And now we have the trailer for the film.
Paul Bäumer.
Ich möchte noch nicht loslegen.
Wir sind jetzt an der Westfront.
That was the trailer for All Quiet on the Western Front. It is out now on Netflix. Do go support. Right, Dom, shall we chat with Daniel Brühl and Albrecht Schuch?
I think we certainly should.
Let's do it. Here they are.
Oh, and hello.
Hi, Will.
Hey, my name is Will Taylor. How are you doing, guys?
Good, thanks, Will Taylor.
Tonight we're interviewing Will Taylor and Lena Simone. So how are you doing anyway, Daniel? While we're sorting out Albrecht's microphone.
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just came back from Boston. Had some fun time there, working on a film called Collaboration with Paul Bettany and Jeremy Pope.
Wow.
That play they did about Warhol and Basquiat, they adapted it, making the film. They're still working on it. I had a little but very nice and funny sidekick role. And now I'm off to Mallorca. I moved to Spain. I moved to a beautiful island.
Was that due to the German winters? Were a bit harsh?
Yes, I had enough of grey German skies and grey German faces.
Yeah,
I had it for too long.
Yes, those damn
22
faces.
years, miserable.
Right.
So
you're moving there permanently or just for a film?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm in Spain as well myself at the moment.
Are you?
Filming down here? Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in Romales, but we were in Barcelona.
¿Dónde demonios está esto?
Yes.
Where is it?
Yeah, it's northern Spain.
No comprendi.
Yeah, no comprendi Spanish.
No comprendi.
So Daniel, if we want to, if any of the directors want to get a script to you, write it for Mallorca, then that's a sort of a starting place. Yeah.
We'll shoot it down there. We'll shoot it all down there with Daniel Brühl.
Are you on that point of your career already, Mr. Daniel Brühl?
Pretty much.
Come on over. Shoot that movie in my garden.
Yes, I am.
It's perfect.
No, they're shooting quite a lot. I just met a German director that you have worked with, Albrecht, Schuch, who shoots The Crown in Mallorca now.
Yeah.
The death of Diana, and they're doing the big finale there. They're shooting quite a lot over there. Yeah. So
there you go. We've had one of the Crown directors and exec producers on this podcast, Ben Caron. He's don't know if you've met him along the way, but yeah, he just did Andor. So yeah, he's been doing really well. Yeah. So but basically,
Diego Luna.
Yes, but basically we should shoot wherever you live. Wouldn't that be so much easier for both of you, Albrecht? You know what I mean? And Daniel, there you are, and you just go, I'll just roll out my house, shoot me in my beautiful place, and go home again. They've done that with some actors, but I don't know.
I like the distance. I like quite some distance between the set and my private space, I have to say.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, there is that.
You've got to be able to switch off, haven't you?
You do. Let's talk about that, because obviously in this film you had to go off to, Czech Republic, mainly shooting in Czech Republic from what I can tell. Do you like traveling away to shoot? You mentioned there that you did Albrecht. Is that something that is part of getting into character and part of the roles, where you go off and shoot somewhere else and you can immerse yourself a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit better, I'd say. The dive is then easier because there's no distraction, There's no work. Okay, I have to not allow myself to see any friends, to whatever, do my daily business. It's easier than to connect on one hand. On the other hand, you miss them so much, because we had this shooting for about, do you remember, 3 months? Yeah, I guess
50-something days, was it?
Exactly. I mean, I had the chance to at least travel one time, because I had some days off, about 2 or 3 weeks. But I'd say I prefer to shoot not too close to my home, actually. Yeah, it helps.
It is nicer, isn't it? Rather than going home every night, it changes you suddenly got to do your home things, and it's nicer.
Yeah, especially when it comes to when you dive in a historic movie like we did. When the time is so far away, the circumstances are not that close. The experience are not that close to what you experience in your life. It's better.
Yeah, it is. What about you, Daniel? Do you like working away? Is there something about that gets you in character?
Well, especially having two little boys who sometimes wake you up at sometimes 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. It's also kind of a holiday.
Yes, right? I'm working.
Harrowing war experience is a holiday from family life.
And obviously, in front of my wife, I sell it as the hardest and toughest work in comparison to Albrecht and Felix, be sitting in a train, drinking tea and having a cushion as a fake belly, and wearing, elegant suits or a pajama. No, I'm kidding.
You did have to rough it in this one.
I totally agree with what Albrecht said. It helps massively to lower the distractions and get into it more intensively, and then not going back to your normal life every day. So it definitely helps, and also then it is just, if you see it as the quality of life or your lifetime. You experience so many interesting things being abroad, the amount of cultural experiences that I've had because of my job. This also nourishes you as a person, but then ultimately also as an actor, because you get to learn so many things by being away.
Does it help you being so immersed, like from a sort of a character preparation point of view, like having so many, brilliant sets, the kind of the blood, the era brought to life, the sort of the horror of war. Does that make it easier for both of you to sort of prep when you're looking at a script and a character like these?
Definitely. I mean, all the departments working on that movie, they were just insanely good, insanely pros.
Yeah.
And I mean, we would go even going into details which you wouldn't see in the entire movie. And we knew that we won't see them. You know what I mean? Mm. So, for example, with Lizzie Crystal, the head of, the wonderful costume artist, we worked on different details underneath the uniform that have a story. You could tell that is fixed by his wife back home, or that is the initials of their son they had, but which had died 3 years ago. Stories like that helped actually to give that character of Kat a certain background story, definitely.
Daniel?
Absolutely. There are moments that give you the chills almost, because if you forget about, I have that sometimes if it's a wide shot, like where you don't even see the crew, you don't even see the camera, and you're surrounded by period, and it's absolutely 100% accurate. So where nothing disturbs the eye, and you really think it is whatever it is, in this case, 1918, or if it's so well done as it was done in this case, you're really traveling in time, and then obviously it helps you massively as an actor to really believe in what you do, and what is being told, has a lot of, authenticity. And I find it remarkable with the circumstances, if you have in mind, the heavy pandemic that was done on top of shooting a war film. Yep. The images that Edward and James Friend have created, these battle scenes, given that the budget was so much lower than, if you look at an American film, what they have achieved with so much less,
it's astonishing.
Is incredible. It's quite remarkable.
James Friend was always a real talent. He did my first short film. He was a DOP on my first short film, and we made another film together before he broke out. So I always knew then that he was going to be a superstar, incredible. What is it like then? Looking at something like this for you guys. What makes you want to do a project like this? Is it the content of this? Is it the director? Is it all of the above? It'd be really nice to know your thoughts, why you pick projects. Daniel, we'll start with you.
Well, in this very case, I joined the production company Amusement Park Films, led by my partner and friend Malte Grunet a couple of years ago. And our goal was always to tell German stories out of Germany, but with an international appeal, stories that are strong and important enough that can travel internationally. And so it was a real epiphany when Malte called me one day and said, listen, I came across this new adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front.
the anti-war novel, one of the books in German literature, in fact, the most successful one, as in, mostly read throughout history. And he had read it in English. He said it's new. There's some new elements to it. So it's interesting enough to adapt it. But on top of that, we should do it in German, as it was never been done, for almost 100 years. Nobody touched it and did it in its original language. So after reading it, I said, definitely, we have to do it. And then the finest director we could think of, Edward Berger, came on board. Then the fabulous cast, James, all these wonderful heads of departments. So it all came together quite smoothly, because I guess everybody knew that this is a real opportunity. This could be a very important and strong film. So it was really a no-brainer for me. After reading that script, I thought, like, we have to do it.
And then obviously you went, well, I'll be in it as well. You're like, I am going to be in this film. Or was it, or did you push against it a little bit because you're exec producing? Yeah, no, very quickly, Malte had this idea of me playing Erzberger. And this was an interesting element of the, of that new script. And I found it bold and courageous and interesting to put something, in it, which is not in the book. And this character spoke to me. I just, I found it interesting to play the only human voice there in this, in this circle of madness, surrounded by all these cold, Prussian militaries, and to play a very emblematic, important figure in German history that I didn't know that much about him, So that I found very appealing. So I immediately said yes to that too. Perfect. And for you, Albrecht, with Kat, obviously it's an amazing role. It'd be crazy to turn it down, but talk us through your thought process when it came your way.
Yeah, I think it's always this so to say magical triangle that I need to decide whether to take on the part or not. So is it the right character? Is it the right director? And what about the colleagues? And in this triangle is the content. So it's and it was remarkable, so to say. So it was to me, no-brainer as well. It just felt right after I met Edward on a silent place, because I always decide meeting people who I might think working with, meeting on a quiet spot, because you can listen to the moments in between the words, And that had so much to do, why am I telling this? Had so much, talking about silence, had so much to do with cut already. That was a huge interest of mine, because normally too many movies, I did tend to, the characters tend to talk too much, I think. And so there's nothing too much left for the audience to kind of project themselves in between those lines.
The unsaid,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have this unique language that needs no words, basically. You know what I mean? And that's what I liked so much about this character. That he doesn't need too many words, but you kind of felt that was a huge joy to fill it up with stories, with background stories.
And what was the process like once both of you received the script to sort of talking to Daniel, and how does that then go in terms of building the character and what you wanted to input in terms of the your own sort of take on things to make it personal for you?
Well, again, as I said before, I was surprised of how little is known or how little I learned about this man who was so important in German politics back then. So I read his biography and was very impressed by this man and his career. By his courage, by his strong moral compass. He came from the south of Germany, from the province, and climbed his way up to the high politics in Berlin. I wanted to make sure that you can feel where he's coming from. So I wanted to be I wanted to sound like, Southern German sound in that particular area in Baden-Württemberg and Swabia. Still, I think my wife's family haven't seen the film because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna receive one text or another and saying like, well, it's not quite right, the accent, but still, for me, I wanted to have it because that accent to me expresses a certain kind of determination and a very sorrowful attitude that felt right,
Yes.
And what I like in working with Edward is that I could clearly tell, there are no small parts here, Obviously, I'm not playing such a big part as Albrecht and Felix in that film, but all these little parts, he paid so much attention to every detail and every performance. Also, the wonderful David Striso, who plays that horrible general, A lot of time was invested in these scenes, and it was not just, oh yeah, okay, now we're doing the stuff in the train on the villa, but actually the main focus is on the, on the trenches and the battlefield. No, everything was, treated with a lot of attention and time and precision. So I also wanted to make sure to be as accurate as possible. Sometimes you have to change one thing or the other. In fact, Erzberger's son did not die on the battlefield, but of the Spanish flu. But I found it interesting emotionally for me to, convince out of a very personal loss, to convince the militaries and the Prussians to stop the war. So I find it interesting how to play with history. How bold can you be in changing history? I learned a lot of lessons from Peter Morgan back in the days when I was shooting Rush, and he told about his approach to Frost Nixon or the Crown or the Queen, and when he decides to make something up in the soul of but that's filmmaking too. What Albrecht said before, cinema is about not talking all the time, but
enhancing.
Exactly.
If it's authentic and it gives your character, something you can really work with, and then that conveys the emotion of what the character and everyone in that world was going through, then I think there's definitely there should be a leniency, with sticking to the dot of those moments.
And still, I find the whole result very coherent. That's why my wish is that this film is shown in schools and in classrooms. I think it is, it's an important film to watch when you're young, to inspire to then the kids to read the novel in case they haven't read it. And because the key message of Remarque is timeless, universal, and so important. That war is not cool. War is not an adventure. War is devastating. And also for the, supposed winners of a war.
The losers are definitely the soldiers. I mean, that's sort of very clear.
All of them.
The soldiers, and just everyday people. And
inevitably, you now think of all the Ukrainians, but also of the Russian young soldiers now being sent to a war where they themselves they ask themselves why.
And it's fascinating from the English side to see that, because we've only really seen films of the English side. So it was great to see it from the German side. Expanding on that question, Albrecht, for you a little bit then, what was it like going into those trenches, the setup of it? What was your mindset going into these harrowing scenes? And you played it so well. You're so fantastic in this film. What was, something for our actors out there listening that worked for you?
Maybe I follow that personal thing, how to adapt, how to connect the character that has obviously experienced what you hopefully will never or had never experienced. And it was, for example, besides, for example, Peter Jackson's They Shall Not Grow Old, that really helped me to kind of find a connection and to realize, because sometimes we tend to, they don't have anything to do with me. And it's that black and white, thing in our head. It's so far away. So the people must have been so different because the pictures are running kind of funny, comic-like. And then when in Peter Jackson's, it turns into color and to, all the voices, you have that feeling of, it's like today it could be you more than you have this black and white experience, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, too.
And then I had this diary of my grandmother, and she wrote down how she experienced from the sort of distance the war, and she collected different sayings, like country sayings or regular people sayings that I thought is very interesting to bring into cut as a sort of prayers, daily prayers, to get through that devastating daily life, and to have this connection that is not too emotionally, but that you need to somehow survive those strings to back home, to your beloved ones, to your past somehow. And I found some very good sayings, and I think she collected more than 120 different sayings. And I found 3 wonderful sayings, and 2 of them made it into the movie. It just made sense for the character. I mean, just seeing, for example, when they unburied Paul just in the beginning, and Katz is sitting in front of him, and he's sharing this bread with him, and then he stands up and, collecting whatever, or continues digging out soldiers. And he's saying something like, move on, it'll calm you down, it'll give you peace if you just continue. I can't say the saying, in English. I don't have a proper...
Just to follow up on peace, because I was really interested in how your character kind of gets to the end of the film, because in the middle it sort of thinks, I sort of thought, well, okay, he's made it through most of the war, he might be able to, he's found friendship with his companions, maybe that's his peace. But to me, it was almost, you were happy at the end, not happy, but relieved in the way that your character sort of sees things out. And there's a kind of a redemption in just escaping war. How did you sort of put that together in terms of how your mental process as your character sort of comes to the end of their journey?
I think the dramatic core of Cut to me was that I tried to build up, was talking about emotions again, because I see myself as a sort of emotion juggler, if you can say so. Again, to me, there's a scene in the novel when Paul has 2 weeks off and he's coming home, stands in front of his house, I think in the stairs just 10 meters before the door of his home, to where his mother is and his little sister. And the little sister heard him or saw him already, and she's saying, "Mother, Paul is coming." And just by listening to the warm voice from his sister, he is devastated. His heart is broken. He realizes how he had canceled his emotions on the battlefield, because he learned from Cut, you can't allow your emotions break through or be there on a daily basis, because it'll cancel your animalish instincts, which you need to survive on a battlefield. And that's what I thought is a great core for Cut. And then we are not sure. I want to leave that to the audience. Is he kind of relieved by the end? We don't want to spoil too much. Not going home again? I don't know. I know, but I don't want to, I want to keep the secret, so to say, because that to me is the core of Remark, saying, no matter if they survived or not, no matter if they were on the victory side or on the non-victory side, everyone involved in the war is devastated.
Yeah,
and we can feel it. We still can feel it. It's then taken from this generation and inherited to the next one and to the next one. Not talking about your feelings,
yes,
or following this narrative of you are a hero because you have been to war and you survived in the war. What? Yeah. So
that's so amazingly put. And I suppose for you, Daniel, and talking exactly about that, having done the films you've done, especially Goodbye Lenin, which is still one of mine and my family's favorite films of all time. It's stunning. And Inglourious Basterds, and the war films that you've done, and also you've directed as well. You've directed, it was Next Door, I think it was called in English. Fabulous. What is it, therefore, you look for since, directing and since making movies like this that you look for, from your side, like the directing side now that you've got that in you, and would you direct again as well? I suppose there's another question in there as well. But did that after you directed, did that change the way you thought about filmmaking, the process of being on set?
Yes, it did. And I'm even more in awe of directors and their work. It's even more humbling after having done it, because I did it I didn't want to lift a weight that is too heavy. So I deliberately chose an idea that, allowed me to be in a very safe and on a limited scale. That's why I chose to do this Kammerspiel situation, a two-hander in a bar, with, of course, the danger that it gets boring. So the challenge was to keep, to make a film. That's the problem about a Kammerspiel. So it feels safe on the one hand because you don't have to deal with thousands of extras on a battlefield, for example, and have the logistics of something that I could not ever do. And I still don't consider myself being a filmmaker or director. Edward Berger is, so I have the highest respect for what he, for example, in this very case has achieved. I could never do that. But directing is something that has inspired me and fulfilled me like any other experience I've had so far. So I definitely would like to do something else. And maybe, daring to experience something else, leave a room and then go outside and then maybe work with a couple of more actors. In fact, I have an idea of shooting something in Mallorca. I kid you not.
There you go. Perfect.
See, I called it at the start.
We knew.
And I met another guy who spends a lot of time there, and one of my favorites is Ruben Östlund. And I met him on the island and dared to pitch him my new idea.
Wow.
And at least that was comforting that he said, that is an interesting idea, and he's happy, apparently happy to, help me in the future if I have questions. And to have a master like him, as a
not too bad
as an ally and so forth is incredible. But again, it is just humbling and amazing for me to see how real filmmakers work. And also, I will never again, as I sometimes did, go to the director in a very inappropriate moment and go like, I was just standing under the shower and I had this brilliant idea that, sometimes not realizing all the other things that the director has to, So when it happened to me and I was directing and someone came up, listen, I had this brilliant, I got to think about it, but right now it's not the right moment.
It's so true, that, isn't it? It does make you, I feel, more humble on set, better actors. But, the more you can do every other department. Listen, we have run out of time. Would love to chat to you more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Your film is incredible. All Quiet on the Western Front. No one should be quiet about this film. We should be shouting it from the rooftops. It is brilliant. Congratulations, both of you.
And I'll say Guten Abend and Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh, danke.
Good luck with it all. All the best. Thank you for your time, Albrecht and Dan. Cheers, boys.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
Have a good tour.
Likewise. Bye. Cheers.
Listen, you can go make your indie films. You can make it happen. Go out there, do it. Believe in your project. Believe in your film. Believe in your script. And make it happen. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, send the elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday. As always, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. We love all your support and we love you to listen. Any questions, anything you've got about filmmaking, do get in touch. That's what it's all about. Bye.
The Filmmakers Podcast is kept going by your generous support. To hear some bonus content from today's episode and future content, subscribe to our Patreon.